Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and privilege for me to be here and to speak on inclusion around the world, learnings from the rest. India has focused on financial inclusion since the 1950s. The methods and scope has evolved and progressed over time, with major focus on innovative efforts to widely provide financial inclusion. Evidence of multiple innovative steps and new experience in India can be seen from an issue of governance now dedicated to this topic, the one which was requested be translated in Hindi. These efforts are also recognized at the international level, as can be seen by a recent publication by the World Bank on Financial Inclusion Strategies Reference Framework, which shows examples of multiple strategies and policy steps taken in a whole range of countries, and India is one of the most cited examples of such initiatives. I'm particularly happy to see that in this book, the World Bank has mentioned health payments in Bihar as an example of the channeling of social payments through financial accounts. Despite making efforts for a long time, India still has a small share of population with financial inclusion. Furthermore, there are differences across the states. Both these aspects, namely low financial inclusion and unequal financial inclusion, should not come as a surprise to anyone who has studied this subject. They are, in some sense, similar to the situation all around the world. Today, globally, we have over 2 billion persons and millions of micro, small, and medium enterprises not covered by financial inclusion. If we extend the coverage of basic financial products to relatively simple ones, such as saving accounts, loans, insurance, payment systems, pension plans, remittance facilities, about half the global population will be financially excluded. This situation is especially worrisome after the recent sharp economic and financial decline, increasing the number of vulnerable population, thus showing a greater need for safety nets and access to finance. Therefore, today, financial inclusion is a major concern for policymakers across the world, including developed and developing countries, though the incidence is much higher in developing countries. In this situation, the objective of financial inclusion has come center stage for all nations, as countries realize the large extent of linkages of finance with economic activities, including with trade and social programs. Moreover, nations have realized that they need to work together, multilaterally as in the WTO, to make effective progress. Therefore, today, efforts to improve financial inclusion are being made not only by individual countries, examples of which we have seen today, but also at regional or global level. Major emphasis, for instance, is given by G20 countries, and India is one of them. A closer look at the areas which G20 leaders, including India, prioritize at Mexico this year will help us better understand the international initiatives and priorities in this context. The G20 leaders announced initiatives on financial inclusion, financial education, and consumer protection. I'll share with you several of them to highlight both the international initiatives and areas which become relevant for financial inclusion. The G20 established inter alia the Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, whose efforts include helping countries put in place principle for innovative financial inclusion, strengthening data for measuring financial inclusion, and developing methodologies for countries wishing to set targets. Also, the main standard-setting bodies are asked to jointly explore the complementarities with the Global Partnership and encouraging them to consider recommendations and lessons which are learned from the global experience. There is a major emphasis on small and medium enterprises. There is an SME Finance Forum and a Global Partnerships SME Finance Policy Guide. Access to finance for women-owned businesses and SMEs in the agriculture sector, these are priority. Progress was made with commitment which the G20 had to establish a finance framework and mobilize resources for SME Finance Challenge and successful development of SME financing models. All these are either there or they are being worked upon. SME Finance Compact was launched to support development of innovative approaches for SMEs to implement the SME Finance Policy Framework, another instrument which is there. The G20 groups are working on achieving a general consensus on data and measurement issues, common definitions of components of financial inclusion, and consistent methodologies to inform, measure, and set targets. They also facilitate countries to implement data initiatives and set their targets. The G20 basic set of financial inclusion indicators developed by a global partnership, they include, for example, formally banked adults and formally banked enterprises, adults with credit by regulated institutions, enterprises with outstanding loan or line of credit by regulated institutions, number of points of service for the population, not very detailed or complicated criteria, but basic ones. The commitments from G20 and non-G20, so all of the countries, to design effective policy to promote financial inclusion as a priority in the national agenda, something, of course, in which India is very much ahead, and creation of a high-level coordination under the G20 Financial Inclusion Peer Learning Program. The G20 endorsed the high-level principles on national strategies for financial education, action plan to develop effective approaches to support the implementation of high-level principles on financial consumer protection. We can see that these initiatives cover a number of areas and show that despite considerable focus on financial inclusion for a long time, the area is evolving with new techniques, policy initiatives, innovations, and service providers. In some cases, these initiatives have specified internationally agreed steps or frameworks, and there are widely differing conditions, which shows that one size does not fit all. This does not mean that information on best practices and effectiveness of policies is not necessary. Rather, it should be used to base the applicable policy, and two international initiatives are highly relevant in this context. One is the availability of a forum where stakeholders can discuss experiences with others who have addressed similar issues. This is what I have mentioned, peer learning model for advanced financial inclusion, implemented by the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, and this alliance has 87 institutions from 80 developing nations and provides a platform to exchange experience and concerns. Another key component is to have a framework which identifies the main issues that should be considered to promote financial inclusion. I mentioned the Financial Inclusion Strategies Reference Framework, a document of the World Bank, which provides the relevant aspects to consider with respect to data, targets, strategy, including agreement on financial inclusion goals, policy and regulatory reforms, new financial services and delivery mechanisms, and of course, monitoring on goals. It also includes a large number of countries, their experience and their examples, and India is one of the more active ones. Nonetheless, we still have to fill the gap because we have a long way to go. Financial inclusion can cover a range of relevant products, supplementary activities, skills, and resources to make progress. The needs are large and diverse, multiple options exist, and we need a framework of regulatory principles to give stability and confidence, an issue which will be addressed in the keynote speech. Relevant policy steps would also depend on which factors are blocking progress. In a simple conceptual framework, 4 situations could be considered. One where there is adequate supply but inadequate demand because of low incomes and poor appreciation of benefits. Second, where there is adequate supply but inadequate demand because of costs of services. 3, there is adequate demand but inadequate supply. And 4, there is inadequate demand and supply. Each of these situations requires different kind of policies. It would be also useful to consider whether there are any parts from the range of options which would be definitely necessary all over, and whether a sequential or stage-wise implementation may suffice in making good progress towards the objective of financial inclusion. In this process, it will also be useful to identify obstacles. Another important consideration is that we would not possess all relevant knowledge, means, special skills or technologies. Thus, we may require establishment of service providers with experience of other situations, including from other markets. The issue then becomes one of opening up the services market, a consideration of public-private partnerships, and appropriate regulatory framework, which I have talked about. The WTO disciplines provide a framework of good governance in this context and can help with common initiatives at home and abroad. A number of regulatory good practices and principles have been emphasized by regulators in general. These would include focus on supportive and proactive regulation that creates a level playing field, transparency of actions based on effective consultation process, encouraging universal access, including to create habits of financial interaction, and paving the way for using banking and finance for inclusive initiatives, and providing justified decisions for comment and record. One of the regulatory aspects specifically mentioned in the context of financial inclusion by the G20 is among the 9 principles for innovative financial inclusion. This is a need to have proportionality in regulation, that is building a policy and regulatory framework that is proportionate with the risks and benefits involved in such innovative products and services, and based on an understanding of the gaps and barriers in existing regulation. So the regulatory schemes may differ depending on the situation. Details of several relevant considerations for proportionate standard and guidance are available in a white paper which was prepared for G20 by the consultative group to assist the poor. Several of these 9 principles are covered in my discussion. I, however, do wish to emphasize one which seems to be crucial yet often not adequately emphasized. This relates to, and the title in the 9 principles is cooperation. What it means is creating an institutional environment with clear lines of accountability and coordination within the government, and also encouraging partnerships and direct consultations across government, business, and other stakeholders. This last point would suggest the possibility of complementarities with existing initiatives and systems, be they with finance, in the area of finance, or be they with other areas. It could be health, it could be some private sector provision of products. So one has to think innovatively and out of the box there. These would save costs, help enhance efficiency, and help better implement all the initiatives which we have talked about today. I thank you very much.